The fight for the midterms is getting an early Trump turbo boost. The president is back in Northeast Pennsylvania tonight, pitching his economic agenda of lower costs and a cheaper life for everyday Americans. It's starting to look like he's ready to campaign like it's 2024 all over again, just like his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, hinted.
I haven't quite broken it to him yet, but he's going to campaign like it's 2024 again.
Oh.
For all these people that he helps. He doesn't help everybody, but for those he does, he's a difference maker, and he's certainly a turnout machine. So the midterms will be very important to us. He'll work very hard to keep the majority in the Senate.
And the president feeling pretty good about the economic job he's done, giving himself high marks in an interview with Politico.
But I do want to talk about the economy, sir, here at home. And I wonder what grade you would give
A plus.
A plus.
Yeah, A plus, 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 plus. The word affordability. I inherited a mess. I inherited a total mess. Prices were at an all-time high when I came in. Prices are coming down substantially.
So right now people are buying their holiday presents. They're planning.
Look, don't be dramatic.
No.
Don't be dramatic.
They're planning their budgets for next year, Mr. President.
I know. And what I want to do is help them.
So will their premiums go up?
I'm giving them money.
President Trump trying to get ahead of Democrats like Gavin Newsom and Josh Shapiro. Those are governors from Democratic states, and they are ready to invoke Trump's name a lot in the midterms.
He's a man-child. He called, I'm going to see Governor Walz tonight. He called him the R word. He called someone piggy. This is not normal. It can't be allowed to be normalized. And so we have to put that mirror up. We have to be more aggressive. We have to be more clear. And yeah, we have to be at times willing to offend.
I mean, if he comes to Pennsylvania and spews more BS like he did today at the White House, I think what you're ultimately going to find are people tuning him out.
Well, it's a very special day for us on The Five, Erika. It's great to have you here. We will not make you go first today. We will start with Jesse Waters for his take on the president's move tonight.
Well, he's very popular. He's more popular now than Bush and Obama were at their parts of their term. And so he has to use his political capital, and he has to use it in the midterms, because if he loses the House and the Senate, it's cooked. So he has to keep the Senate, stave off the blue wave. I didn't say it, Jessica. Don't worry about it.
You did say it. I saw you say
it. And that's what he should be focused on. And no one is better on the stump than Donald Trump. No one can connect with the average guy, and no one can raise money like he can. So he should just get out there and barnstorm the country, get out of the White House, get out of Washington, and reconnect with the forgotten men and women of this country, and he'll do just fine. There are bright spots. I mean, you have right now gas prices below $3. Hasn't been this low for 3 years. Oil, when he came in, per barrel, $78. It's $58. So people now have more money. I think just in 1 year, we have $1,000 more in our pockets. Under Joe Biden, you lost $6,000. Black Friday record sales. Jessica even bought flat screens at Best Buy. What? She was just running out of the store.
I carried them myself.
Record stock market. Right now, the stubborn factor is rates. So once he gets these rates to come down, it unlocks the housing market, and that unlocks the American dream. What I'd like to see him do is connect the mass deportations with the economy, because the more migrants you get out of the country, that sends insurance down, auto and health, and it also lowers rent prices, because there's just not as many people to compete for these apartments and houses. So you also build and you deport. Build houses, deport migrants, and then that's how you unlock the American dream. And I think he's off to a hot start.
Jessica, one of the things that President Trump will do, no doubt, is to remind people that the economy that he inherited from Biden was the one that ramped up inflation. So because the media will always pick up on Democratic attacks like Shapiro, Newsom, et cetera, then President Trump, I think, getting out there will at least try to prevent any ground being gained by Democrats there.
He's going to try to, but the argument that the guy who's been out for a year, that it's all his fault when you've implemented a totally new economic agenda and that it's a failure in basically every corner of it, is not really resonating with people. When Joe Biden's inflation number was over 9%, the entire world's inflation number was up. Donald Trump doesn't have the same issues that Joe Biden did. He doesn't have a supply chain problem. He doesn't have a global health pandemic that was killing millions of people all over the world. He's just setting our economy on fire, and not in the good way, in like the dumpster fire way. The A+++ grade, obviously, that's ridiculous. But there are some key indicators that Donald Trump and his administration knows that this is going really badly. First, Susie Wiles having to go out there and say he's going to get back on the campaign trail. That'll really animate the right. Well, guess what? It'll animate the left as well. We aren't getting the jobs numbers anymore, the GDP numbers, or the inflation numbers. And we know that Donald Trump, if a number is even remotely good or he can lie about it, he tells you what it is. Layoffs on track for Great Recession levels. ABC says 70% are spending more on their groceries, 60% more on utilities. Reuters, manufacturing's been contracting for 9 months straight. And this farmer bailout, $12 billion of his tariff pot, which he didn't need to put the tariffs in the first place. And the farmers are speaking out about this. This is Donald Trump's problem. He's the one who caused this. The head of the National Black Farmers Association, agriculture in this country has been in complete turbulence and turmoil since the president got elected. This is a man-made crisis.
Let me just point this out here. So on your screen, you can see President Trump is departing Marine One, and he is making that walk over to Air Force One as he goes up to Northeast Pennsylvania. Interesting about that, Erika, is that the Republican freshman there in the district is PA 7. His name is Ryan McKenzie. He won by 4,000 votes. He knocked off a Democratic incumbent. He's going to the event tonight. And one of the things I think that says is that even Democrats in a swing district, Republicans in a kind of a swing district like that know that it would be better for them if President Trump is in their corner rather than having him stay home.
I'll take more of a personal approach here. So I'm a very optimistic person. And Jesse, you and I are very similar from that standpoint. So 2 wins that I've always seen that Charlie as well was no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. But I have to tell you something. Once, when Donald Trump secured peace in the Middle East, the next day he flew back to DC to deliver my husband's Medal of Freedom to me. He didn't have to do that. So a lot of people, I understand there's a lot of policy and everything involved, but also I am very proud to have Donald Trump as our president. I really am. He's a good man, and Charlie helped deliver the youth vote. And I'll never forget the night, election night, when he just, my husband, everyone was overwhelmed with emotion. And I just have to say, President Trump called me multiple times. He still does. He's a good man. He's a good man. So.
And he's going to be out there campaigning, and Susie Wiles says that he doesn't know it yet, but his campaign schedule is going to get filled up. But I think he likes it.
I hate this.
Wait, what?
I absolutely hate that the president has to leave the White House to go campaign for these Republicans. Republicans, step up. Why does daddy have to come save you? This is the problem. Trump comes in, the arena's sold out. Everyone's going crazy. Trump leaves 4 people, and 2 of them are the Republicans' family members. Republicans, you have to step up. You should want the endorsement, but you should be the one knocking on doors. You should be the one, maybe it won't be a gold escalator like the president went down, but go down yours. Get out there. Get on social media. Go to the White House. He has important things to do that he's doing. He's changing the world for a better place, and now he's got to go fly out and bail out all these Republicans. You have to start stepping up and doing your part. The president should not have to do this.
It's interesting.
What are you going to do when he's gone?
It does happen.
Hey, JD,
the
stretch.
easiest
You
thing
get
to
in
do
there.
is to ask the president.
Yeah, get in there. You wish, Jessica.
You wish.
I do. I hope and pray.
Listen, the success in the Republican Party is as clear as Dana's little shoe box thing that makes her taller on TV.
It's not taller. It's that
So
my
our
feet
feet
don't
don't
reach the
dangle.
floor. My legs don't reach, so my feet don't. And I have to have a box so that I can touch the floor.
No, it's fine. It's cool. Very
All right.
nice.
It's cool.
Thanks, Tyrus. Next time, let me know how the leg day goes. All right?
It went phenomenal.
All right.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.